today I wanted to just talk about Kelly's perfect system. The perfect system. And this system, let me just write that here. Kelly's perfect system.
Yeah, and then just so we know too, so anyone who has a burning question or anything that they'd like to discuss, just type a Q in the chat. That way we leave plenty of time to get through that as well. So just make sure, I don't want to miss out on any of that either. So just
First
that out
off,
there.
yeah, awesome. Does anybody ever experienced overwhelm or maybe is currently experiencing overwhelm? Just raise your hand. Me, Brian, Natalia, Santos. All right, Monty, and yeah. So yeah, we've all experienced. Well, I happen to have a perfect system for ensuring that I continue to feel overwhelmed. So I wanted to share that with you because I think that you'll gain something from it. So one of the things that I always do to make sure to stay overwhelmed is I have this mentality that I have to do it myself. Every time we wanted to add something new to the business, new process, anything. I mean, it didn't matter what it was. It's how am I going to get this done? So that's one way. Another way is I am the keeper and I have all the answers. It doesn't matter if it's an employee or a supply house or a business partner. I have the answers. So I'm constantly making sure that they know so I can feel significant, that I know what I'm talking about, right? Another way is that I really struggle with is always available. We go through these periods in our business, everybody goes through it, where you have all the answers, you're always available, no matter who it is or what time of the day it is, and you're always there. And I think that that's really important to a certain degree, but it's also could be an absolute deterrent from getting us what we actually want more of in our business, which is probably more freedom. But if we're always the gatekeeper, that's why they say the bottleneck is the top of the bottle. That's because the CEO sits at the top of the business. And if everything's funneling through you, you guys may have heard me say this before, but if everything's funneling through you and we're not taking steps to make this stop being a reality, then everything will always funnel through you. And as long as that's happening, then you might be experiencing that little portion of my perfect system for overwhelm yourself. Another way that I do, that I'm guilty of, is I never say no. Hey, Zach, we got this customer on the line, needs to talk to you. I told him that you were stepping out of the office, but you'd be right back, right? And our initial response is, okay, oh, I got to call this customer back. I got to do this. I got to do that. Oh, hey, Santos. Can you just email this for me real quick? If you guys spend any time in your office, people are throwing monkeys in your office all day long. They drop off these little monkeys, and pretty soon, by the end of the day, you got all these damn monkeys bouncing off all the walls in your room, and it's all just been thrown on top of you. Hey, Monty, Miss Smith needs to talk to you. Right? Like, You don't tell me you've never dealt with this. You might be dealing with it today. It's something we deal with all the time until we fix it. And it's a good formula for staying overwhelmed in our business. Another thing is I put my team and my customers' needs above my own. If they tell me to jump, I ask how high. Because I am a people pleaser. I want to help people. I know that I have all the answers. I'm not going to say no. So that's me. It all rests on my shoulders because I'm allowing it to happen. Another thing I do is, man, this is a big one. I don't give myself permission to take time off. I heard somebody say. How many of you are guilty of this? Just be honest.
Yep.
We don't allow ourselves the damn permission to just take some time off. I'm super guilty of this. I'm a workaholic. Who else in here is a self-proclaimed workaholic?
Right here. Right here.
Yeah. So it goes against our nature to take time off because we got stuff to do. And at some point in the business, I realized, you know what? I'm always going to have shit to do. It is never going away. It is always going to be there. There is no final destination where there's nothing to do in the business. There's always something to do or needs to be done, or a customer that needs to be handled, or a conversation that needs to be had with somebody on the team, or a marketing decision, or a growth decision. There's always something. So we have to get used to the fact that it's always going to be there. And we have to get used to the fact that it's not going anywhere. So if it's not going anywhere, it doesn't really matter if I do it right now. Another thing that some of you might relate to that keeps me in overwhelm, and even to this day, continues to keep me in overwhelm. Coach Natalia can back me up on this. She hears shit that I wouldn't talk to you guys about when it comes to stuff that I see out in the marketplace. Compare myself to others.
Would that be other owners, other businesses?
Oh,
kind of deal?
absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, these guys just did $3 million in a month. I must be a piece of shit. You know what I'm saying? When is the
Yeah.
last time you compared yourself to somebody else and it came out equal?
Never.
Never. You either put yourself on a pedestal and say, I'm better than they are, or you discount yourself and you say, God, I thought I was doing well, but I'm not.
Yep.
One or the other. So that's a big one. Another thing we talked about last week, just briefly, I did with Brian, is I think only about what's wrong. I mean, most of us are technicians. We're used to fixing stuff. That's our bread and butter. We love to fix stuff. That's what we're good at. It makes us feel good to fix things. That's why when somebody answers the phone and you say, well, did you check between R and Y? What was your voltage between R and Y? Like, and we answer that and we help a technician through his problem. it gives us a feeling of significance. So when we think only about what's wrong, we're only thinking about what's missing. So I know that probably wasn't a good example, but let's say, just like I said with Brian, like, what if I was just to say 2468, 2468, those are my numbers. What numbers are missing? And you immediately, your mind goes to, well, 1, 3, 5, 7. And I didn't ask you what was missing. Like I did ask you, but all I said was that here's some numbers, 2468. There's nothing wrong with those numbers. They just exist. There's nothing missing. But because our minds are wired to find what's missing, that's what we're always focused on, is what's missing or what's going wrong. So I realized myself that, man, there has to be times where I just step back and say, what is going right? And then when it comes to my team, like our discussion last week, we have to, when it comes to our team, we have to literally be a detective with our team and search for things that they're doing right. Even though we have all this other stuff that's going along in our business that's not going the way we want it to go. So that's another great way. You can just add that to your list. If you want to feel overwhelmed all the time, think only about what's wrong instead of opening your eyes to all the stuff that is going right. There was a time, Brian, Larry, when you guys wished you were in the position you are in right now. When things were not going well, when you didn't know if you were going to make it, when you didn't know if you could go another day putting up with all this crap. And now look at you. You're sitting in your office. You're not on a rooftop where it's 110 degrees. You can't touch your tools because they're too hot. You got to have a bucket of water next to you just so you can work on the darn unit. So there's always these things there's all these things in life that are going right. They don't always go all right at the same time, but there's a lot of things going right. So if we focus on that, it's a good way to, start breaking this overwhelm that we're feeling all the time. Another way in my perfect system is I make slow decisions. You guys ever been in that situation where it's like, man, I need to do something, and you just put it off because all of a sudden the phone rings and you got somebody coming dropping monkeys off in your office. You got all this stuff to take care of and juggle. So you put it off instead of just making a damn decision and moving on with your life.
Mhm.
We got several people who are interested in, joining us for these group coaching calls, but they're afraid to make a damn decision. And that's the same reason a year from now, they're still going to be afraid to make a damn decision. 2 years from now, they're still it won't change until you get over that. Like, you just got to make decisions. And what I found in my business is the faster I make decisions, the farther I'll go. And the faster I'll get there, because of course, sometimes you're going to make bad decisions. But because you made a decision in the first place, you learn some stuff. Like, you learned what not to do. You learned what was a good decision, what was a bad decision. But if we continue to just procrastinate, frustrate, hesitate about making decisions, whatever that decision might be, you guys have to make no less than 25 decisions a day, business decisions. Do I go help John or do I go help Bob? Do I call back Mrs. Smith or do I go talk to Monty about this problem that we're having in the business, right? You have all these decisions to make. So if you want to go slow and be overwhelmed, then make slow decisions. Another way, of course, what may contribute to all of this is I get in my own way. just get in my own way. Part of getting in my own way comes from the stories that I make up. I make up some good ones. I'm really good at this. Really good. I'm really good at assuming things, whether I have data behind it or not. I just assume that's the way it is. So I thought that we would talk about this because I know for a fact that some of you guys have your own perfect system for not getting what you want. Everybody does. I don't care if it's having amazing sex with your wife. You may have a perfect system for not having amazing sex with your wife or your husband, coach. I don't know what that perfect system is. Maybe it's you don't ask for what you want. Maybe that's you're embarrassed because you have a foot fetish and you don't want to talk to her about that. I don't know. I'm just being real. But if you want to have better sex, you got to look at what your perfect system is for not having better sex, because you have one. So let's talk about this.